Welcome to the C-Suite Mentor, the place where you will learn the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale your business sustainably and build a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Theresa. As a fellow CEO, I understand what it takes to scale a business to 7 and multiple 8 figures. It's not necessarily what you might think. It requires a complete shift in how you think, strategize, and execute key actions in your business. My mission is to help CEOs step back into the driver's seat of their business by optimizing their operations, empowering their team, and staying in total alignment with their big vision. So, are you ready to exchange everything that hasn't worked for strategies that will? You're in the right place, so let's go. Hey there, and welcome back. I wanted to talk today about this concept of balancing foundation and growth, or also velocity, how fast we do stuff or how fast something happens, versus quality, taking our time to make sure that we are doing the right things, that we're putting the right pieces in place, okay? We're building the right stuff the right way. Because there's so many people that are focused on growth, grow your business faster, scale faster. So they're focused on that growth and that velocity. And there is a time and place, and yes, that is important. But with everything that we are experiencing in our businesses, really in any business, whether you're in a corporate sector or you're in a small business, you're in a local business, I think just what we're experiencing across the board. Now is a time that we want to make sure that we are building a strong foundation and we're focusing on quality. Now, one misconception that I hear about a lot is that when we build our business and we put a foundation of infrastructure, systems, processes, people, product, inventory that we carry, we put that in place and then we don't worry about it again. And that's a big mistake. It's a big misconception because as you grow, as you experience growth, your processes and your infrastructure and everything needs to grow with it. If not, you're going to crack the foundation. If we don't have those things in place, if you experience super growth and you don't have those things in place, you're going to crack the business, which I have seen that happen where people experienced massive growth and didn't have the foundational pieces in place. And they just had all this velocity, but no quality. The business broke. So you can break the foundation, you can break the business. The other thing is that when you have unexpected things happen, shutdowns, resignations of key people, or just mass resignations, challenges in the economy, whatever it is, we want to go back and look at the foundation of our business because we might have to make some pivots and some tweaks and some changes based on what's happening and based on where we want to grow to. So if we end up losing, if we have a resignation of key people and we have certain processes in place and we have a growth plan in place, but we lose those key people, we have a giant gap that we need to fill. So if we continue to focus on growth and we don't go back here and kind of take a look at the foundation and say, okay, what do we need to do to make this right so that we can achieve that growth? Things are going to fall apart. I had a client this past year who had resignations of 2 key people in his business. And at the same time, they had some external impacts in the area where his businesses are that were negatively impacting his business. So in the beginning of the year, a growth plan was set. to increase revenue by X percentage, increase profit by X percentage, and also start to expand into additional markets besides the market that they were in. And these things happened to key people, to very toxic key people left, which was a positive thing for the business. But also, these external impacts within the town that he was located happened, which both of those things impacted the business. And they wanted to continue with the growth plan and not look at the foundational pieces. And what was happening was it was leading to an extreme disconnect with the employees. A lot of people felt overwhelmed and overworked because they were filling the gap of people. And you can see, like, just trying to put bodies into places without going back and filling the gap and fixing that foundation, it leads to a lot of overwhelm. It leads to a lot of people feeling like they're overworked. It leads to a huge disconnect because in their case, they weren't communicating what was happening. They weren't communicating what the next steps were. So people were confused. They were confused. They weren't really sure what the plan was. All they saw was a lack of business and a lack of people who were considered leaders in the business, and they weren't really sure what was going to happen. And I think this happens a lot out there. Again, whether it's in the corporate sector or in small business, where communication, when things happen, whether it's rapid growth happens or when challenges happen, or with what's going on right now and the changes that have happened in the economy, and the increases in costs and the recession and all of that, um, there there has been a lack of communication. A lack of communication as far as, here's where we are, here's where we want to get to, and this is what we need to do in between. And that in between time, that middle ground, that middle time, is when the real work is done. And it's not always pretty. It's not always fun. It's not always it's challenging, but that's where the real work is done, that gets us back to that huge growth that we're looking for internally, as leaders, as people, as CEOs, but also externally with the results that we're seeing in our business. More customers through our door, more revenue, bigger profitability. But what we need to do is we need to think about and go back and look at the foundational pieces of our business and make sure that we have the right things in place for where we are and for where we want to go to. And again, this will happen when you have like growth, when you have seen like a very huge amount of growth in your business, going back and looking at the foundational pieces and seeing what needs to happen to grow and scale them. Because as your business scales, those processes and systems, the infrastructure, they need to grow too. They need to scale. And if they don't, there's going to be a misalignment. Okay. So we need to go back when we see that massive growth, when we have a challenge or an obstacle that comes our way that causes a disruption in our business. We need to go back and look at the foundational pieces and make some other adjustments. And when we've had impact that has happened, a flood, a fire, resignations, or even if something traumatic happens. One of my clients, his son passed away unexpectedly, and it just put a halt to a lot of things. And it was one of the times that I've actually stepped in as a leader and continued to run the businesses while he was dealing with, it was a huge tragedy, huge tragedy. So those are the times, or all of these examples are times when we want to make sure that we're focusing on foundation versus growth, but also quality versus velocity. So a lot of people just want to go fast. They just want to go fast into stuff. They want to see fast growth. They want to just, get things done faster. And especially when challenges come in, people go into control master mode and they just try and push results through. And it just doesn't happen that way. And when we are approaching that, those times where we want velocity and we want growth, and we're approaching it from a scarcity mindset or scarcity decisions, fear based decisions, um, nothing good ever comes out of that. So, the time that we're in right now, a lot of businesses have seen a huge disconnect with employees and a huge misalignment with employees and what's happening in the business and where they want to go. And the quickest way, now we're going to talk about velocity, the quickest way or the best way to get back to getting things course corrected and to get back on track, or to make sure that you are insulating your business from whatever impact happens, is by focusing on foundation and quality. And right now, just the way that people are making decisions about how they use their money, how they spend their money, whether they go to this restaurant or that restaurant, whether they shop from this store or that store, it's all, those decisions are different than what they used to be. And I've seen it across the board, whether it's retail, whether it's restaurant, whether it's service-based businesses. People are being more, or spending their money wiser, because they don't have that disposable income that they may have had before. And especially if they've had layoffs in their family, they need to make sure that they're spending their money wiser. But all of this doesn't mean doom and gloom, which is why, I wanted to do this episode and I wanted to talk about it, because there are things that you can start doing today to streamline your operations, to improve your customer experience, and also to rebuild that trust and connection with your employees. And the way that we do that is we focus on looking at the foundation in our business versus focusing on how fast we can go and how high. Yes, we definitely want to have that growth plan in front of us. But sometimes, more often than not, what I have found is that many times over, we need to slow down to speed up. We need to simplify to amplify. And I'm sure you've heard those terms many times over. But as clear as I know my name, those phrases hold true. And now is a time that they really hold true, because we're in an election year. We have a lot of things that have been happening in the world, and also in our country, that is going to impact business decision making, buyer behavior, and really the economy. So I'm going to give you 3 areas where we can focus on foundation versus growth, and some things that you can do a little bit differently right now to get you through what's happening now, but to also make sure that you are building a stronger foundation to get you through what potentially is coming our way. So the first one is looking at profit versus revenue. And many times the other day I had a conversation with one of my clients, and we were talking about, I kept talking to him about profit and what goes into his profit. And he kept saying, "No, I want to increase my sales because that's going to mean more money in my bank." And I said, "No, that's not." Because he had a lot of broken processes in his business, how they did things, how they looked at expenses that he had and how they were spending. And it could be processes for how you purchase items, or how you purchase food, or processes for how often you cycle your inventory. These are all key things that lead to how profitable your business is, AKA how much money you have in your bank account at the end of the month. So, yes, higher sales, more revenue in the door is important. But if you don't go back and look at what's happening in your business, meaning how you do things, how everyone does their job, their individual role in their business, how they do things. Again, how do you purchase inventory that you can sell, but also what is the process that you have set up for cycling or turning that inventory? So if you don't go back and you don't look at those things, you're not going to be profitable. And if I had a quarter for every time I've talked to a client and they say, well, my revenue is high, like it's the highest it's been in so many years, but I'm not seeing the revenue in my bank account. Well, the reason for that is because you have a lot of expenses that potentially you don't need. So maybe you have redundant software, or you have services that you're paying for that you don't use, which I see a lot, memberships or subscriptions that you just don't use. And you have complicated processes in place for how you are running your business, which leads to a huge profit drain. So if you can get around that now and you can look at what's happening in your business and does it feel complex, even talking to your employees, having a conversation with them about the way that they do specific tasks or the way that they process a product so that it can be sold to a customer, even the way that they deal with customers, having a conversation with them, number one, getting them part of that profitability discussion. They don't necessarily need to know all the ins and outs with the numbers, but talking about how things are running and getting some feedback from them. Maybe they have an idea, maybe they have a suggestion of how things can be done better, easier, simplified, with a deeper impact for what you're doing, a deeper impact to the bottom line for profitability, but also a deeper impact to keep customers coming back time and time again. And to build even more so a deeper connection with vendors that you're buying from, building those vendor relationships. These are all things that eat into profitability. But when we're looking at foundation, we want to make sure that we are focused on the bottom line. And we want to make sure that when we're looking at how we're doing things and what it really costs us to produce something, or what it really costs us, what's the cost of a sale, okay, in our business, we're looking at the right things. And we're looking at it from the lens of how can we simplify this so that it takes less steps and costs us less money and creates a better experience for our customers. Because if we have complicated processes, people who are doing them, if you have complicated procedures, people who are executing them don't feel particularly great, don't feel inspired, don't feel motivated. And then that translates into your customer experience. And the customer experience then suffers, which again, it's just a trickle down effect. So that's the first one. Second one is making sure that you're taking time to plan and not just survive. And I've gotten a lot of, well, Theresa, I don't have time to put these strategic plans in place. I don't have time to sit down and brainstorm out an idea. I don't have time to brainstorm out, how we're going to do stuff. We're just trying to survive. And my answer to people when they say that to me is, it's costing you a lot more to just survive than it would to sit down for 15 minutes to 30 minutes and brainstorm out an idea or brainstorm out how you can take something that's complicated and streamline it and simplify it so that you're cutting your costs, but you're increasing your impact. I use the French fry story a lot from the standpoint of I have a client who has a restaurant, and they were making French fries, and it was a very complicated, complex process that took forever. And the person that did anybody who ever did it, they kept losing people because nobody wanted to make these French fries because they were homemade, hand cut, and everybody that they got to do the French fries hated it. So when one of the key people that left in his organization that was toxic and was very challenging, when they left, it gave him the opportunity to look at this and have the conversation with the people who were making the French fries and say, how can we make this simpler? And what they ended up coming up with was another alternative to this French fry that cost them less money, tasted better, didn't take as much resources as far as oil, fryer oil, and just the cost of the gas that they needed to heat the stove. And it also took less people to prepare these French fries. People were happier. People were happier, better product, more profit, right? But what it took was having the conversation, sitting down, having the conversation, having multiple conversations. So it was a conversation with the employees, then it was a conversation with the vendor, then it was planning out how it was going to be executed, and then finally it was implemented back into the business. So if you focus in survival mode, what you do is you end up putting random action into place. You end up going into control master mode. You do random action, which is going to yield random results at a time when you want focused action, focused results, because that is what's going to move things forward. So, looking at it and saying, okay, we need to take a step back, and even looking at your growth plan, whatever plan you set out to do in the beginning of the year, taking a look, and now is a great time because we're coming up on June, coming up on the end of Q2. So looking at your plan and saying, okay, let's pause for a minute. Let's take a look at our growth plan that we put into place. What do we need to course correct? Where are we getting stuck? And what can we do to continue to move it forward? What do we need to adjust? Maybe it's like I said, maybe it's how you're doing things in a specific area. You might have, 3 areas in your business that are running like well-oiled machines. And then you might have 2 areas in your business that absolutely are sucking wind. And we don't realize it until we pause and we look at things with a clear set of eyes and say, all right, how can we make these things better? I have another client, they do a lot of different events. They do a lot of different classes, workshops, they do tasting sessions. And the process for that, it never got changed from 10 years ago. And over the past couple years, actually, it was breaking, and things weren't flowing the way that they should flow. They weren't flowing real smoothly as far as delegating out the tasks to marketing or to whatever accounting needed to do, whatever the website person needed to do. So we took some time and said, okay, where is it broken, and what can we do to repair it? And it literally was a 20-minute conversation to relook at the software to make sure that the project management software that they were using was being used right, to make sure that everybody understood that we don't function in silos. Everybody's interconnected in the business, and then putting the pieces back together so that marketing got what they needed, finance got what they needed, the website people got what they needed, social media got what they needed, so on and so forth. And now the events are selling out again. So again, slow down to speed up. It's like shifting a gear in a car. So slow down, and then you can shift a little bit and speed up again. So making sure that you're taking time to plan. And we should be looking at our month plan. We should be looking at our 60-day plan, our 90-day plan, um, as we're moving through the year. But also reviewing with your team every week, what do we got going on this week? Where are you stuck? Where do we need to help? Where do we need to support? How can we move forward? That way, you're communicating what's happening with people. You're getting input from them, but they also know, I see you, I hear you, I'm here to support you, which is what people need a lot right now because there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. And the last thing that they want is uncertainty in their job. So, the last area that I wanted to talk about is about the people, is making sure that you have the right people in the right place and you're hiring for a role and not just hiring to put a body as a placeholder. So when we are in growth mode, a lot of times a big mistake that people make is they see growth and they see that people are, handling multiple things. So we need to hire more people. So what do? They hire the way that they used to hire 5 years ago, and they just put bodies into positions because they think volume of people is going to be better than quality. No. So, what we want to do is, again, this is a really good time to look at it and say, do I have the right people in the right role? Who do I really need on my team? And I'm going to go deeper into this whole piece in several episodes that are coming up. But looking at it and saying, do I have the right people in the right role? What does that role really need? What does that role really require? And it's not necessarily from the hard skill standpoint. It's more the alignment of that person and their personal skills with the vision of the business, the core values of the business, and what the vision for that role is, as well as looking at, because again, if you did the first part, the profit versus revenue, you understand where your profit needs to be. You know where you're leaking profit. So you might have certain people in certain roles that aren't necessarily fulfilling what the role needs. And they might be high paid positions. I've seen this happen. They have high paid leaders, high paid managers in positions that aren't, they're paying them a lot of money to not really do anything, or paying people money and they're just not in the right role. So these are areas where that leak profit, that cost people a lot of money to hold on to people that are in the wrong role. And when we're just throwing bodies at positions, when we're just putting, just saying, I just need volume, I just need people. I mean, in some cases, assembly line work and stuff, yes, it might be that you just need for a period of time, it might be for a short period of time. We need extra people in this role so that we can get these things produced faster. I had a client at one point, they were making bikes. They were a bike manufacturer, and there was a point in time where they just needed to have people in a certain role to get a ton of bikes through production in a short period of time. So they understood their profitability, and they understood that this was a short period of time to put people into this specific role, and they even understood what the role was, and they knew exactly who they needed. They got those people, and at the end of the time, they ended up having to furlough them. But what happened was they were transparent up front. They gave them clear expectations of what was going to happen, and those people came back time and time again when they needed that seasonal or that part-time help when they went through busy seasons. So looking at it and saying, do we have the right people in the right positions? We also want to make sure that we understand that leading people in this time is different than what it used to be. And what that requires is for us to make sure that we are communicating with people, that we have the ability to be transparent and set those clear expectations with them, and also be able to have those difficult conversations. The difficult conversations of, this is where the business is, and it's going to be a little bumpy for a little while, but we're going to get through it. And when we get to the other side, everybody's going to be rewarded, or however you want to have that conversation. Or the difficult conversation of, this is not the right role for you. And we're really sorry, but we don't have, like, right now, with the way that the business is set up and the way the business is structured, that this just isn't the right role. We're going to try and find you a different role, or it might be time, depending on, their performance and everything, it might be time to part ways. Again, we're going to dig into that in a future episode that's coming up, so you want to stay tuned for that. But the big thing to remember is that we want to make sure that who we have in different roles, and you're going to get clear on the roles by doing the other two things first, by planning, by making sure that you're looking at your profitability and understanding what you have to work with, and then also making sure that you understand who you need, because who you need today is different than who you needed last year, the year before that, or 5 years before that. So the bottom line to all of this is, don't try and spend your way out of a problem, because throwing money thinking that it'll fix it at any random coach or software that someone down the street told you that they used last year and it was the best thing ever. Or even, this is another thing that I see a lot, and I'm just going to throw this in here, I wasn't planning on talking about it. I have seen a lot of people applying for um, grants that they don't realize they need to pay back. They're not grants the way that we think that they are, or taking out loans that they're not really fully sure, that they don't really fully understand how they work. And then they realize that this loan that they got, that was like this great loan, next thing you know, they're attaching a certain percentage that they take out of the sales that they make using their product. I'm not going to mention names, but I've seen that happen a lot. And I'm highly recommend to steer clear of both of those. Or if you're going to apply for something, make sure that you fully understand the ins and outs of it, because you can get yourself, and believe me, I am not immune to this. I have done it with myself with a line of credit, and that's why I highly recommend that before you sign up for something, you read and fully understand what you're looking into, because a grant isn't necessarily always what we think a grant is. And I've seen that happen. I actually just got a message from somebody the other day saying, "Oh, this is great. You should try applying for it." I applied for it. I was like, "Ooh, bad idea." Anyway, what this all comes down to is, number one, you can't spend your way out of a problem. We have to see things for how they are. We have to see what is right now, so we can create what can be and what's possible. So we need to get super clear on what's happening. If you're feeling stuck, it means that you need to put some things into place. It means that you need to grow. And it could be changing up some stuff in your business. It could be getting clearer on these things. It could be getting the right help to help you get clearer on these things. But seeing what is, so you can create what can be and what's possible. That's what this all comes down to. There is a time for velocity and growth, for that speed and that growth. But now, and you will have times of this, seasons of this, where you need to be in a season of foundation and quality, making sure you have a strong foundation that is supporting the growth that your business has achieved or that you want to achieve, and that you're also putting forth quality product, quality service, and quality connection with your employees, with your community, with your leadership team, with your vendors, and with yourself. So I hope that this episode helped you. And if you are looking for additional help to work through some of the issues that we've talked about, because there is so much out there right now, so much, and it can be confusing. Let's chat. Let's jump on a call and have a 20-minute call. We can talk about where you're at, where you want to go, where these roadblocks might be, and then just talk through some things that you can implement over the next several months, next 6 months, to get through this next time and these additional things that are coming our way. And really to set your business up for success for years, and to make sure that you have the foundation in place so that you can achieve all of the things that you and your team want to achieve. So if you're looking to do that, let's chat. You can go to theresacantley.com/business audit, book a call with me, and let's work through it. But until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you soon. Hey there. I want to talk to you about something that might be a little taboo and a lot of people are uncomfortable to talk about. What is it? Money. Recession, rising interest rates, costs just seem to keep going up. All of this can make anyone and everyone feel uncertain and even scared about what's happening today, but also scared about their future. But let me ask you, what if you had a roadmap that works no matter what is happening in the world and in the economy? The fact is, with a handful of money principles, a few proven frameworks, you can be in complete control of your financial future for good. And I want to tell you about a roadmap that's so easy to follow. So let me introduce you to my mentor, Mel Abraham. Mel is known for taking seemingly complex concepts and simplifying them through visual frameworks and an easy-to-execute process. And he's got a new book coming out, and this book is no different. His powerful teaching style comes through and comes to life in visual frameworks, meaningful stories, and like I said, easy-to-use processes that can work for anyone. This is one of the key things that completely sets this new book apart. And I can tell you from my own experience, what he teaches is absolutely life-changing. Yes, there are plenty of money books out there that will give you theory and thoughts and general guidelines. But Mel's new book, Building Your Money Machine, is literally built from his 4-decade financial journey as an entrepreneur, advisor, and a person trying to give a good life to his son and find freedom in his financial future. And the beautiful thing about this book is that it came from the miles run by Mel himself, and it's backed by his financial background as a CPA. This is the real road that's well-traveled, and it can be well-traveled for you. So if you want to pre-order this book, it's not available until June 11th, but you can pre-order it by simply going to yourmoneymachinebook.com. And let me let you in on a little secret. When you pre-order the book, you will get access to some amazing bonuses. There are so many on there. They're mind-blowing, and they will be super, super helpful. But once the book comes out, the bonuses go away. So you want to make sure that you pre-order this book. So go to yourmoneymachinebook.com and make sure that you pre-order it today. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found value on the show, please follow the podcast so you never, ever miss an episode. And I would love, love, love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for me. Even better, share the show with a fellow business owner ready to step fully into their CEO leadership role. Because right now, more than ever, the world really needs next level leaders. And by the way, did you know you can text me all your questions and get real-time feedback? You absolutely can. Just text the word CEO to me at 610-215-2838 to get connected. One last goodie for you before I go. If you're ready to scale your business and have a co-creator working right by your side, my C-Suite Mentor Program may be perfect for you and your possible new second in command. Just visit thecsuitementor.com to get started.